I wrote my book, The Essence of Perfume, because I wanted to leave something behind as a legacy. I have a lifetime's information in this head, and I wanted to be sure that it was all in one place for other generations to be able to learn the things that I've learned and to share the knowledge and the beauty of what is the perfumery industry. The book is unlike any other I know, and I have around 300 books in my collection which span over 200 years. I believe it's the only book that's been written that explains from how the sense of smell itself works, how the method of extraction work to break down jargon. I talk about the main accords or harmonies of perfumery and how perfumers work to create them. I explain the strengths, and then I start an entire story on the raw materials themselves, which people often talk about, but very few people really understand maybe where they come from or how they're processed. The book explains the history of perfumery from antiquity, how we've been fascinated with sense of smell and how it affects all of those around us since the dawn of time. So I explain the history up until the birth of modern perfumery itself in 1882, and then a new chapter begins, which is all about the great classics. But what is a classic? A classic is a perfume that was so rule-breaking that it defined an entire new style or genre and has gone on to inspire many, many perfumes throughout history since. So I tell the stories behind those perfumes, and then in another chapter it explains the driving force behind that particular creation or house. When a perfume is discontinued, or maybe a house has long since closed, the only thing left that tells us the thing ever existed were the perfume bottles themselves. Some of the greatest workers of glass, some of the greatest designers in history have worked to design these extraordinary bottles that house these precious liquids. I talk about the development of design, looking specifically at the houses of Lalique and Baccarat, but I also thought it was really interesting, as with the whole section on the decades and the classics, to put everything in a socio-economic context. So the book explains what was going on in this particular decade and how perfumery reacted to it. And then, when you look at the chapter on the bottles, you will see I've tried to find every single original advert that I can to put by the side of the bottle so that we get an idea of how we saw ourselves and what inspired us to go into a store to try a scent that we maybe lost our heart to. There have been 2 editions of this book. The first one sold out, and I started to laugh when friends of mine said, "Have you seen your book selling for $1,200 or $1,500 US on Amazon?" Which made me laugh because we were selling it for £29.50 a copy. When I was asked if I'd like to have it reprinted, I said no, I'd like to use it as an opportunity to rewrite parts of it. So now the book has a section on men's perfumery throughout the decades, and it also had a very small section in which was called What's Next? Of course, I can't tell the future. I can only give my best shot at what the future might hold. I'm very proud to say that everything I thought in the first edition actually came true, and so far what I've written in the second edition looks like it's coming true too. The very end of the book finishes with a poem I wrote, or a piece of prose. It's not a poem, a piece of prose. And that piece of prose, for anyone who knows me, knows it is my life story through scent.